I think that putting all your money and all your eggs in one basket is generally quite risky, because if something happens with that one asset, yes, you've got no bank borrowing, so you can sell it quickly and you can fire sell it and you can move out of it. But ultimately, you've got all your cash tied up in one asset. Hi guys, it's Arsh, and in today's video we're going to be talking about money. We're going to be talking about good debt versus bad debt. Now before we do that, I need a small favour from you. If you wouldn't mind hitting the subscribe button and the notification bell, every time I release a video you get notified of it. Now as you're aware, this channel is sponsored by the Property Investor app, which is the UK's first property investment platform, which showcases all kinds of deals all over the UK. So whether it's looking for a rent-to-rent deal, a lease option deal, a below market value deal, believe it or not, we've got them all there. Now there are two ways to get involved. You can either go to the website, which is propertyinvestораpp.co.uk, or if you've got a smartphone, go to the App Store, type in Property Investor, download it from there. Now, before we get started, let's have a bit of fun. I brought my friend with me, got myself shaving, and he's going to be on this video with us today. So, money, a taboo topic. Some people love talking about it, some people hate talking about it. Now, for me, I'm kind of a neutral. I don't really believe in it. I like the thought of making it. I like the thought of what it produces and what it allows you to do. For me, money is a method to achieve freedom. Without money, you can't do some of the things that you'd like to do. So therefore, it really is an important part of your life. Now, the reason why I'm talking about money and the reason why I'm talking about debt is because I was speaking to a property investor friend of mine, and we were just talking about leverage. And when we talk about leverage, we're talking about borrowing. We're using the bank as a mechanism for us to purchase property. Now, when he was talking about it, he kept saying, "Arsh, I don't want to take leverage. I want to buy everything cash." And I had to say to this guy, you know, he's a great guy. He's built a very successful business, so he's very clearly clever at what he does, but you're not a bottomless pit of cash. So at some point, you're going to run out of money. If you continue to purchase properties with cash and only cash, you're going to run out of money. Now, we started talking, and we're going to talk into some of the metrics of what people look and how they measure what they should be utilizing. So there's certain words that people talk about. So we've got things like leverage. So we call it debt, and then they measure it by what yield is a property producing. Some people look at the cash flow it's producing, and as a result, other people look at the return on capital employed or the return on investment. So there's 3 or 4 different phrases that you can use as almost like your key performance indicator, your KPI. Now, let's call this guy John. Now, John said to me, "Arsh, I'm buying everything cash." And his reason behind that is because he's worried about the level of interest rate. Now, he's trying to buy a commercial property right now, and the purchase price is approximately £400,000, which means that he's going to have to put in quite a large amount of money. Now, if he buys this with cash, now he's got £400,000, and if the property is producing £40,000 a year in income, that's going to give him a 10% return yield. So that's going to give him a 10% yield. So it's shown very simple maths. £40,000, divide that by 400,000, going to give him a 10% yield. Now, when we started talking about debt, he was worried about the level of debt, because if he was to go off and get leverage, and if he was to go off and get some bank borrowing against this purchase, and let's just imagine that with a commercial property, they're going to lend him approximately 60% of the purchase price. So based on that, on a £400,000 purchase, they're going to lend him 4, 8, 12, 16. They're going to lend him approximately £240,000, which means that he's going to put in 4 times 40, 4, 8, 12, 16, £160,000 of his own cash. Now, from your point of view, you've got to think of it. Would you rather put in 400,000 or would you rather put in 160,000? Now, the way that he's looking at it is that if he puts in the 400,000, he's got no bank borrowings, he's got no questions to be asked by any bank, and off the back of that, he can then have all the income, all the £40,000 income without having to worry about it. Now, I look at it from a slightly different point of view, and there's no right or wrong way here, by the way. It all comes down to how comfortable you are with taking debt. Now, for me, I treat debt as either good debt or bad debt. Good debt is something that's allowing you to utilize the finance. The finance is allowing you to purchase an asset, which is an income producing asset. So in that respect, if I was purchasing that property, yes, I would use leverage, because then I can use, if I've got £400,000, instead of putting it all into one property, I can leverage it. I can leverage that money and actually put it against multiple properties. So I've got multiple properties bringing me an income. Now, when we looked at it, based on £400,000, £400,000, if they lend him approximately 240,000 and he puts in the 160,000, the mortgage based on an approximate interest rate of around 9% as it is today on a commercial property, it means that it's going to be left with a cash flow of around £1,300. That's based on a 9% interest rate today. So it's almost like 4% above base. So you've got to ask yourself now, so based on a £40,000 income, it's going to leave him £1,300 a month, which is £1,300 positive. So it's not negative, so it's actually making him money. And he's still got, so if he had a £400,000 pot of cash, he's used 160,000 out of that to purchase a property. And now he's still got 240,000 to go and buy multiple different assets. So when he comes to actually looking at his portfolio, instead of only owning one asset producing 40,000 per year, he may have 2 or 3 assets producing 40,000 a year. And as a result of this one is producing £1,300 a month, this one's producing £1,300 a month, and that one's producing £1,300 a month, it's then going to be producing on average around £4,000 a month on average, give or take a few pounds. So what would you do? And then you've also got to factor in that if he holds onto these assets over a period of time, and we can do two things. He can potentially bring down the debt level over a period of time by putting these mortgages on capital repayment, which means that in actual fact his cash flow might actually shrink slightly, because if the debt is now being repaid, it means that the mortgage payments might be slightly higher. Or if you kept them on interest only, it means that the debt level will remain the same. Now personally, I like to bring all my debt level down. Whether that's a good thing or a bad thing all depends on where you are in your journey, but for me, I don't want the debt level to remain the same for the duration of the period of the loan. I think that's a bit crazy, because in essence you're just in theory gambling on a crystal ball hoping that that property is going to increase in value, but that's a completely different topic. So we're now working on the basis that we've got this property, let's hypothetically we've got this property, bought it for 400,000, you've got debt on it. Now hopefully over the next few years, 5 or 10 years that he owns this property is now going to increase in value. So not only has the debt against the original purchase price shrunk because hopefully it's gone on capital repayment, but also he's got this level of equity from capital growth as well. So the leverage level, instead of being 60% loan to purchase from when he bought it, now over a period of time, hopefully that would have reduced so that it now goes down to circa 50 or even 40% of the open market value as a result of the capital appreciation. Now, I appreciate that if he buys this with cash, he would have actually benefited from a larger capital appreciation. Well, it won't be a large capital appreciation because the value will have still been the same, but there's no debt on it. So my question is, what would you do? Would you leverage or would you buy cash? If you were in this guy's position, would you leverage or would you buy cash? Would you buy more assets? I suppose my question is, and again, put the comments in the box below, would you use that money to spread over multiple properties, or would you rather just buy one asset and be completely debt free? Remember what I said, there's no right or wrong. It's just a different way of thinking about money. It all comes down to your appetite to risk as well. How comfortable are you having bank borrowing? How comfortable are you with dealing with debt? Because if you're comfortable with dealing with debt, naturally you would try and split that money over multiple properties and use the bank's borrowings. Because remember, mortgages, it's not a new topic. Mortgages have been around for tens of years, hundreds of years. And more importantly, if you've got the income to service that debt and you're still going to be cash flow positive, I don't really see what the issue is. But again, it comes down to how comfortable you are with that scenario. So it'd be really great to get your feedback on it. This for me is like a mind dump. So this video for me is like a mind dump. It's allowing me just to get through in my head where he thought he is in his head and whether I kind of see the merit in his thoughts. But everywhere I look at it, I think that putting all your money and all your eggs in one basket is generally quite risky, because if something happens with that one asset, yes, you've got no bank borrowing, so you can sell it quickly and you can fire sell it and you can move out of it, but ultimately you've got all your cash tied up in one asset, whereas I'd rather have it tied up in multiple. So if something goes wrong with this one, we've still got cash flow from this one and that one and that one to actually help service this one, and that's the best way to have it. Because let's face it, even if you're a single portfolio, even if you're buy-to-let landlord and you've got a couple of properties here, not all of them are always going to be occupied all the time. So if you've got other properties that can help with the void periods and the back debt periods, that's obviously a great thing to have. So there we have it, guys. Hopefully you've kind of enjoyed this, almost like this mind dump. I haven't done one of these for a long time, but money can be a sensitive topic for some. Some people like talking about it, some people don't. Hopefully you've enjoyed this because I've tried to give you quite a balanced view of of how to use debt to your advantage. And you can talk about debt in all different ways. The way that I see it is that if you're using debt to its positive, it's always a great tool to have, because you can spread the money that you do have into multiple different areas. And as a result, it allows you to purchase more assets. If you're using debt to purchase assets or liabilities, then that's naturally the wrong way to use debt. But if you're using debt to purchase income producing asset, then it's a great way to go. So I really hope that you've enjoyed that. As I said at the start of this video, the video is sponsored by Property Investor App, which is the UK's first property investment platform. Go and check it out. There's two ways. You can either go to the website, which is propertyinvestораpp.co.uk, or if you've got a smartphone, go to the App Store, type in Property Investor and download it from there. If you're on social media and you want to get in contact, feel free to find me on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, Twitter, and also TikTok, all under the handle of Arsh. And finally, if you like more free content like this, feel free to go and check out my podcast. I release every Tuesday at 6 a.m. It's called The Property Rebel. Feel free to go and find it on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, as well as other podcast platforms. So on that note, guys, really hope that you've enjoyed it. If you've liked the video, don't forget to hit subscribe and the notification bell, and also leave us some comments below. But on that note, speak to you all soon. Bye-bye.